Study sources A and B. How useful are sources A and B for an inquiry into censorship and morale on the home front during the Blitz? Explain your answer using sources A and B and your knowledge of the historical context. 8 marks. This is the mark scheme for this question, which you can find out about in more detail in our overview video. But we do know that all 8 marks here are awarded for AO3, which is your analysis and evaluation of source utility. So essentially, how useful is that source for the inquiry given to you in the question? To decide that, you should focus on at least one of the following: accuracy, reliability, limitations, knowledge of the author, or valuable information offered by the source itself. Remember that this isn't a comparison. You can treat the sources separately, but you don't need to decide if one is more useful than the other. You might also want to bring in some existing knowledge that you have, but if you do, just try and make sure that it's relevant and that it actually helps the point that you're trying to make. Here are the bands for this question, which again are explained in more detail in the overview video, but generally speaking, to score highly on this question, you need to have reached a judgment on how useful the source is for the particular inquiry. You then need to explain why you think that it's useful or isn't useful. To do that, you need to make use of the information available to you, whether that's the content of the source itself, the information the question gives you about the source, or your own contextual knowledge. There are lots of points you could have given here, so as long as what you say is relevant and correct, the examiner will give you the marks. But let's take a look at the mark scheme. So you can see that the mark scheme is divided into the utility of the content of the source, so what it actually says, the utility of the source's provenance, so where it comes from, who wrote it, when, and utility of the source in relation to its historical context, so essentially how you can bring in your own knowledge to explain what the source means or what it's trying to get across a little bit more. Structuring your answer like this, so making sure that you've included all 3 elements that they've listed on the mark scheme, is a really good way to try and secure the top band. So let's take a look at how they've done that for source A. So looking at the content, they've said that source A is useful because it reveals that people involved in tragedy were told not to tell anyone what happened in order to cover up the accident, so an act of censorship. If you then wanted to discuss the utility of the source's provenance, you could say that first-hand accounts of experiences of censorship, such as this one in the source, were useful because someone was directly told not to share the information in order to prevent weakening morale. Then, finally, to discuss the utility of the source in relation to its historical context, you might say that propaganda was clearly very important in maintaining morale and popular support for the war effort, which was needed in order to encourage people to serve in the army, produce armaments and other goods, and participate in campaigns such as Dig for Victory. So we've got 3 really good points there, and if you can explain them a little bit more, sort of develop the points, maybe link them back to the question, that's a really, really good answer. It shows really analytical thinking and that you know the topic really well, as well as really good source analysis skills. But take a look at the rest of the points and source B to see if there's anything you could have added to your answer.